Hey guys, welcome back to Minecraft The Lost Journals. Today, we're going to be reading Chapter 18, which is titled, Not a Useless Skill After All. Starts on page 162 and goes to page 176. If you guys have enjoyed this novel so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more Minecraft The Lost Journals. Without further ado, Chapter 18. Not a useless skill after all. It looks like he doesn't want to be found, Allison said from over his shoulder, and Max felt his rage spike. That's obvious, he said hotly, ripping the note from the door. He knew he shouldn't blame her, but he had to blame someone or he would go mad. He looked around wildly. Is he spying on us? Why doesn't he just show himself? He stomped to the edge of the porch, the note clutched in his hand. He glared into the distance, hoping to spot his uncle hiding somewhere nearby. Even amid the wither skeletons under the mushrooms, do you want to see inside the house? Allison asked from behind the door. You really want a tour right now? We have to go after him, he snapped. I was thinking of looking for any clues he may have left behind. At the very last, we might find some supplies. We need to get back across the lava. Remember, she said calmly, but it might be dangerous. We don't know how long he's been gone. So? Max said. We don't know what has spawned in there in the meantime. I'm pretty sure he put away any spawn areas under those mushrooms, which is where those things come from. He waved down at the giant mushrooms. It's something he would have done. Doesn't mean there can't be more inside, she said. Oh, do I have to do everything? He snarled and brushed past her to push the door open. A crash sounded behind them, but Max couldn't turn and see what had happened. He was frozen in fear, his eyes locking with the purple, blank stare of the Enderman hovering just inside the door. Run, yelled out, run, yelled Allison, wheeling around and grabbing Max's hand. She jerked him back just as the tall, lanky black creature began to scream. Three more clustered behind it, and Max, of course, had to look at all three before allowing himself to be pulled away. They rushed to the end of the porch, and Max had the wild idea to jump, but figured the fall or the lava would finish him off. So he turned quickly and slid down the ladder. Allison ahead of him. She jumped out of the way when she landed so he wouldn't pile on top of her. The Endermen were waiting for them when they got down to the bottom. Max had forgotten they could teleport. Freya, Allison called, we need those potions. And some help, Max added as he took a swipe at one of the Endermen with his golden sword. It teleported away easily, popped back next to him, and hit him with its arm. He felt the armor take the blow, but it knocked him backward, and he stumbled to catch up with Allison. Freya, he called in desperation, and he saw his friend not paying attention to them at all, but dashing in their direction. Wither skeletons and once docile pigman mobs enraged and pouring out of the hole in the prison behind her. Freya, what did you do? Max asked. They weren't bothering anyone. I was mining some blocks, accidentally saw an Enderman. It hit me. I fell into the glass. The pick broke, though. I accidentally made a hole. I must hit a pigman because they got mad. So I ran. Once the trio was together, Freya switched their direction, leading Max and Allie toward the edge of the lava lake. Bunny Biter, come, she shouted, and the wolf was at her side with a joyful bark. Max wished briefly that crossing the lava lake could have been that easy for all of them. Freya stopped at the lava's edge and started putting blocks of netherrack at the edge of the lake. Max, do you have any mine blocks with you? Max thought quickly, taking stock of what was in his bag. Yeah, some. Why? He asked. Allison caught on before he did. Make a bridge. Why not just get back the way we came? Max had cursed armor. We don't have much fire protection potion left. We can't fight while we are in lava, and we need to get moving now, Freya said. She looked at Max. Allison said, you were going to build. Good at building on the fly. He nodded, understanding. Oh, they want to tower for safety. That's what they're talking about? Yeah, I can do that, Max said and started grabbing granite blocks from his pack. He tossed one on the ground and then another one on top of it, then jumped onto the short stack. He jumped up again and placed another block under his feet. Build out, Allie shouted, pointing at the far shore. Build a bridge, dummy! Max cursed at himself and modified the direction he was moving in. Building out quickly was harder than building up, but with the threats behind him, he was inspired. He angled himself just right and placed the block down, pushing forward. The girls jumped up behind him, covering the rear, as he built 3 blocks high over the lava. Allison with me, Freya said. They took guard positions behind Max to keep the mobs off them. Max was placing blocks as fast as he could, moving out onto the lake as his bridge got longer. Allison, aim for the hole. Get the ones coming out. I'll get the free ones, Freya said. Got it, Allie said grimly. Max turned to Freya. Shoot an arrow at the closest Enderman. It teleported away, which he expected, but when it disappeared, the arrow skewered the Enderman directly behind it. It took the arrow full force, staggering backward. That's one way to do it, Algie said, sounding impressed. Now that he was out over the lava, creating a bridge 2 blocks wide, he had vivid memories of a short time before when he was in the lava when the fire potion protection wore off. He slowed down, placing the blocks a little more carefully. He ran out of granite and switched to dirt, not daring to look in his pack to see how many blocks he had left. An Enderman teleported beside him, and Max nearly leaped back, which would have been a disaster for him, Freya, or both. But he remembered where he was and what was all around them, and stood his ground. He planted his feet and swiped at the Enderman with his sword, and it flayed backward into the lava, where it twitched once and teleported away. It won't try that again, said Max, grinning. Then he stopped grinning. Bone Bane, his precious sword, clattered down and skidded to the edge of the bridge. He reached out for it, but then saw that it had broken. I guess gold wasn't as strong as I thought. He chanced to look back. The panicked pigmen were milling about, no longer a threat, but some of the wither skeletons had pushed through the pigmen to pursue them. They joined the kids on the bridge, chasing them down. I think I'm going to need the sword of yours, Max, Allison called, losing arrows at the mad clip. The skeletons were still getting closer. I do too, he said, but it's gone. Gone? What do you mean? Gone, broken, no work anymore, he said and looked in his bag to see if he had packed any backup weapons. Then he froze. The only things in his bag were a pickaxe and the note he'd found on the door. Not only did he have spare weapons, he didn't even have any more blocks to build with. He thought fast. They were only a few blocks distant from the shore, but he knew even little time in the lava could be the end of him. Freya, I'm coming back toward you, but I'll stay low. All right, she said, still sounding calm, even with death screaming behind them and sizzling under them. She adjusted her stance as he got down on all fours and crawled up to her feet. The mobs were only about a dozen blocks away and closing fast, even with the girls shooting down the ones in the front. I need more blocks, he explained as he chopped away at the bridge between them and Nicholas's island. We might need to make this narrower. I guess you're good with balance, Freya said, scooting to the right when Max took the block to her left. I'm great at it, he said, but I've never tried it over lava. The dirt block he had just removed crumbled and fell into the lava with a hiss. Freya stowed her bow and took out a diamond sword. She handed it to Allison. He needs help, she said, and go out her own pick. Got out her own pick. She made short work of a block of granite and tossed it to Max. He caught it, embarrassed. Let me dig, you build, she suggested, and he nodded, cheeks burning. Allison furiously swung the diamond sword, thinking she'd much rather have her bow, but Freya had been right. This was better for close quarters. She held off the mob, swinging to keep them away more than to damage them. She knocked a few pigmen and wither skeletons into the lava. The pigmen squealed and disappeared. The wither skeletons just glared at her. They couldn't reach her now, and she couldn't kill them with lava. So they were at in an impasse. The Enderman she just waved her sword at. She couldn't have hit them anyway, but at least she could keep them out of range. Behind her, Freya and Max had narrowed the last 5 blocks of the bridge to just 1 block wide and added the blocks they had removed to the end, bringing the bridge closer to the shore. They still weren't close enough. Now what? Asked Freya, directly behind Allison. Take the bridge away, Max said. Then they can't follow us. Allison took one more swipe at the withered skeleton and jumped backward, switching to her bow when she landed. She kept shooting at Freya as Freya bent down to take the block or the bridge that Allison had just vacated. They worked that way, but Allison shooting and stepping backward toward Max, Freya taking the block from under her feet and tossing it to Max, who slowly built them toward the shore. Will the Endermen follow us? Allison asked. I don't think so. She got distracted by the lava and the other mobs, just like I'd hoped, Freya said. Bunny Biter didn't hurt either. Max got the bridge 2 blocks away from the shore and jumped to safety, tumbling to the ground, exhausted as his adrenaline gave out. The girls fell beside him, Bunny Biter teleporting in from. Max didn't know where, but she carried a stone sword between her teeth and looked very pleased with herself. Let's not do that again, Allison said, panting and staring into the red sky and rubbing her right wrist. That wasn't fun at all. Most of the enemies had disappeared due to the rain of arrows, or had fallen into the lava, and those that hadn't had returned to the island. The Endermen wandered the shore, teleporting to and from the treehouse porch, acting as if 3 kids hadn't even been there at all. So, how was the visit with your uncle? Freya asked. It hurt Allison to see Max's face when he saw the note was actually meant for Freya. But what did he expect? Nicholas thought he was dead. Still, Max paled and frowned when he saw Freya's name at the top of the note, and then handed it to her wordlessly. She read it aloud. Here is the note. Dear Freya, don't follow me. I appreciate your kindness when you rescued me, and I'm sorry I left you without saying goodbye, but I'm a cursed man, hurting everyone I come across. I came to the Nether because I was responsible for my nephew's death. I don't deserve anyone's kindness. I can never make up for it, so I'm taking my exile as far away as I can. So don't follow me farther. It's just going to get more dangerous. Nicholas. It sounds like he won't come with us even if we do find him, Allison said, grabbing the note from Freya. Hey, you didn't finish reading. There's a P.S. here. P.S. Also, I worked hard to build this house and was pained to discover it immediately got infested with spawning mobs. So don't come inside. There are Endermen and skeletons likely wandering the house. Oh, Max said, maybe we should have read the note first. Allison couldn't help herself. She started to laugh. Then she grimaced. I think you should look at something for me, she said to Freya. I didn't think it was a big deal, but she held out her right arm, showing her wrist where it peeked out of armor. There was a wound there. It wasn't a deep, worrisome cut, but even a shallow cut shouldn't look black and puckered around the wound. Did one of the wither skeletons hit you? Freya demanded, pulling Allison's armor off so she could get a better look. Yeah, but it wasn't a bad cut. I barely felt it. It was right after I removed the last block to give to Max. I didn't think it was a big deal. Yeah, you said, Freya said, frowning. That was a wither skeleton, Allison. Don't you understand what that means? I'm starting to get an idea, Allison said, fighting the urge to rub her arm again. It ached deep into the bone, and she was experiencing a weariness that felt much deeper than it should have. Freya rummaged around in her pack. One more fire protection vial, 2 more healing potions, a few others. No, I don't have any. Any what? Why not just give her the healing potion? Max asked. Because that would be a waste. It would make her feel better, but not heal what's hurting her, and she'd get sick again, and then we'd be out of potion, Freya said impatiently. Milk, Allison said softly. Freya nodded. Yeah, milk will negate the effects, but I don't have any on me. And cows aren't really found wandering in the nether, not even mushrooms. I have I may have some back at the fortress. Max glanced back at his uncle's treehouse. I guess going back to see if Uncle Nicholas has left any behind would be suicide. Freya glared at him as her answer. We can go back to my base and lose whatever ground we've gained on Nicholas, or we could go forward and hope he has a solution once we find him. Allison glanced down at her arm. How long do I have? Her eyelids were dropping. Freya examined the wound again. I'd say about a half a day, she said. I need rest, Allison said. She lay down with her head on her pack and closed her eyes. No, no, Allie, we gotta get up. We only have half a day, like she said. Max put his hand under her armpits and heaved her to her feet. She grunted in annoyance. Come on, Allie, you can do this, he said. Freya got under one of her arms on one side, and Max took the other, but she shook them off. Max is right. She could do this. After a few hours, they all took a rest. Allie dozed off immediately while Max and Freya studied the letter for more clues. What do you think it meant that he is taking his exile even farther away? Max asked. He was setting Allie's head on his pack to make her more comfortable. What's farther than the nether? Freya glanced at Max as if to gauge whether he could handle the truth of what she was about to say. It's not quite the farthest you can go, she said. There's one more place beyond here. It's called the End. It's where the Endermen come from, and the Ender Dragon. It's hard to get there, and even harder to get back. Max rifled through Allie's pack, a mushroom stem sticking out from his mouth. He chewed on it thoughtfully. He grabbed more mushrooms for Allie to eat when she woke up. She'd need her strength. Well, she really needed milk, but food would have to do for now. He felt distant and sad, and if he weren't a part of this journey anymore, he had become it had become too big for him. Uncle Never, Uncle Nicholas never did anything halfway, he said. He built the biggest houses when he didn't have to. He wanted to learn all the enchanting and alchemy recipes, even though architecture was plenty. He left the whole existence when he thought he'd kill me. It wouldn't surprise me if he left for as far as he could go. We'll find him, Freya said. We just have to hope we get him before he builds another portal. Because I'm not going to the end. I can take you to your uncle, but if he's already traveled there, you're on your own. I thought you were in this with us, Max demanded. To get back from the end, you have to kill the Ender Dragon. And you saw how a few Endermen and skeletons nearly got us killed. How will we handle a dragon? Max stared at her. She shook her head again. If you find him, I'll help. But if we find a hot end portal, I'm heading back home. Max went to sit beside Allie, ready with the mushrooms when they could have to get her up and moving again. From the Journal of the End. I think we can communicate with the Endermen. They want the same thing we do. They want to be left alone, have no one look at them, and to teleport anywhere they like. Note, they are actually able to teleport, while, at this point, it's only something humans want. I have tried to communicate while not looking at them. I offer food, blocks, useful tools. I try to speak, or grunt, or scream, but they don't seem to care about me until I look at them, and then things get ugly again. I've tried to watch the Endermen together to see how they interact, but their lives seem to be relatively solitary, yet after with companions. I hear the Endermen come from a place called the End, and that it's harder to get to than even the Nether. I will go there someday, but I must finish my excursions to the Nether first. Boots always said to be thorough. Put in another bookcase today. It turns out that enchanting is easier with more bookcases around, almost as if the books are drawn to the enchantment, which makes sense since you need books to enchant. Have discovered that it's harder to enchant things with just any book. I use the popular novel My Heart is Square to enchant a helm, and now I have an iron helmet I can't take off. In the woods, that's fine. In the village, I tend to stick out. The book was pretty good, though. That wraps up chapter 18, and that wraps up part 2. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and if you did, stay tuned for part 3, and I will see you next time.